I was doing like 2 weeks on the Colorado Trail, and it was right after the Knife's Edge, if people are listening to this and know about that. But it was just, on the side of a cliff. The sun's going down, setting up my little Gatewood Cape, and, the air gets purple, pink. There's a deer in the distance. It's a little cold, and I just felt alone, but like in a positive way, like deeply, strongly, positively alone. Like I finally could just like be by myself, but like in a really positive way is the best, because there's so much negative connotation about aloneness, but it was just like real aloneness in this like beautiful place.
ברוכים הבאים למסע. אנחנו בפודקאסט לטייל בכלילות, ואני אריה פישלר, מארח, ומספר לכם על כל מיני דברים שקשורים למסעות. נדבר בעיקר על טרקים ומסעות רגליים רב-יומיים, אבל לא רק. יש עוד חוויות מסע מרתקות מעולמות שונים שתשמעו עליהן, וכמובן, כשיוצאים יש לקחת איתכם ציוד מתאים, וגם בזה נעסוק ונמליץ. אז בואו נתחיל, פרק נוסף. הפודקאסט בשיתוף Plan My Tracks. שירות לייעוץ והתאמת תוכנית אישית לטרק שלכם, וגם חנות לציוד טיולים קל ואיכותי. לפרטים נוספים מוזמנים לבדוק את planmytracks.com. היי לכם. אל עזרא התוודעתי ביוטיוב. שם בכלל קוראים לו אקסטרה אולטראלייט. זה שם השביל שלו, כמו שמקובל באמריקה, על השבילים הארוכים. אני רוצה לנצל את ההקדמה הלא קצרה הזאת, כדי לשכנע אתכם להקשיב לפרק, גם אם אנגלית קצת מרתיעה אתכם. עזרא הוא איש מיוחד. מעבר לעובדה שהוא מדבר בצורה הכי ברורה שנתקלתי, ומאוד קל להבין אותו, יש כאן הזדמנות נדירה להבין את הראש והנפש של אדם שהחליט שמהות חייו היא פשוט ללכת בשבילים ארוכים שוב ושוב. בהראות שלו ביוטיוב, הסרטונים שלו משכו אותי הרבה יותר מכל יוצר תוכן אחר בתחום. הוא לא מחפש להתחנף לאף אחד, הוא לא מספונסר, לא מקבל מימון. בהתחלה הוא קצת עצבן אותי, אבל בסוף משהו תפס אותי בישירות שלו. בדרך המאוד ברורה שהוא מציג את האמת שלו, גם אם היא לפעמים מלאה בסתירות. אם מקשיבים לעומק, מבינים גם את הסיבה לסתירות האלה. עזרא לא מציג דרך אחת לאולטראלייט. אפילו לא בהכרח אומר מה הכי נכון. אלא מנסה להתוות הגדרה כללית ותפיסת עולם בגישה המאוד מינימליסטית שלו. הוא מכסה את עולם ציוד האולטראלייט מתוך ניסיונו העשיר. לאחרונה החל להציג פודקאסט מצולם המראיין דמויות שונות שעשו שבילים ארוכים, ומביא את תפיסת הציוד הקל שלהם. בסרטונים שלו הוא מקפיד להזכיר שהניסיון שלו מבוסס על הליכת אלפי מיילים רבים, אבל מה בדיוק הוא עשה נשאר קצת מסתורי. לאחר שהסקרנות שלי התגברה, החלטתי לראיין אותו. להציץ קצת אל האישיות מאחורי רשימות הציוד הקל, הנימוקים המפורטים, להבין מיהו עזרא האדם. ככה גיליתי יהודי חם, לא סתם קוראים לו עזרא. יש לו אמא יהודייה עם קשר לחב"ד, הוא גם היה בארץ, אפילו מזכיר בהתלהבות את מערת הקמח. יותר מזה, גיליתי אדם רגיש עם תפיסה פילוסופית מרתקת על הליכה בשבילים ארוכים מאוד. עזרא בחר בדרך חיים של ללכת על שבילים ארוכים, היא חלק בסיסי במהות שלו, הוא לא סתם אדם שחי חיים רגילים, ומדי פעם יוצא לטייל. הוא אדם שמרכז חייו הוא הליכה ממושכת לאורך שנים. יש לזה דרך אגב מחירים כבדים לצד רווחה נפשית גדולה. דרך עזרא הבנתי יותר את מהות המשיכה של האמריקאים לשבילים הארוכים שלהם, ואת חוסר העניין שלהם במה שקורה ברוב המקומות האחרים בעולם. למדתי עוד המון דברים קטנים. מה זה ווילדרנס אמיתי בעיניו? למה לוקח חודשים להיכנס למצב הנפשי הנכון בהליכה? למה ה-PCT הוא השביל הכי מדהים בעולם? למה הוא שונא דיינימה, BCF? ועוד המון דברים קטנים כאלה. הצטרפו אליי לפרק חדש באנגלית, אני אריה פישלר, ואתם על לטייל בכלילות, מתחילים מיד. טוב, לטייל בכלילות, פרק מספר 74, and I'm happy to welcome Ezra, known also as Extra, from his YouTube channel, an amazing thru hiker, an amazing content creator, and I'm happy to bring you, Ezra, to the audience here in Israel and talk about everything you do. People might know you from your videos, but I want to get to know the person behind the videos. So I will just ask you, as a top level question, what's your hiking resume? Because you always speak about 15,000 miles. What did you do? You never put too many details.
Oh, when I was 18, I hiked the Appalachian Trail, and then I did some backpacking trips when I was in college, and I probably took around 15 years off of long distance backpacking. I'd always do lots of little backpacks between that, and then came back and did the Tahoe Rim Trail, and then the Washington section of the PCT, and then hiked the PCT, the CDT, and then the AT for a second time, and then PCT for a second time. And then I've done all the popular trails that are in Nepal. So go back to Nepal. I've probably been to Nepal 4 or 5 times. It's amazing. So I think those are all my what I'm accredited with.
Did you do the Kanchenjunga trail in Nepal, in the East Nepal?
No.
I've been there in November, my first time in Nepal.
How was that? How was that trail?
Well, we can talk about it. I have very interesting opinion on Nepal. The bottom line is that the mountains are great, but something is too structured there. But we can get to that later on, maybe. So you're saying outside of the States, the only place you mainly visited is Nepal hiking?
Oh, also did the Michinoku Trail in Japan.
Oh, okay. So no Europe.
It's no Europe. I haven't done the Camino yet. I want to do the Camino though. I'd like to go I'd really like to go to the Italian Alps, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, it's funny, because the Camino is for me, is always, I don't put it as a what we call trek. It's not a mountainous thing. It's just mainly walking in city, urban, kind of an urban thing. So I always differentiate. But yeah, I see that growing in the States and living there, gets people to focus on the States, because you have such an amazing country with so many opportunities. So when I listen to American podcasts, it's always about the States, and it's interesting. I find it a little bit fun because there's a whole world which is so diverse.
Yeah, no, I think it's because the through hikes that are in the States are different than very different than the Michinoku Trail, and I also think different than the Te Aurora. Just the sort of culture that's been brought up around it, and the trail culture that's on it, and you can go to other trails and hike other trails, but you're not going to have the kind of experience I think that you have on the PCT and the AT especially. And so I think that it's a lot of people that just stay hiking in the States are doing so because they want that particular kind of experience that you get from these long through hikes, and they're not actually as interested in just a wilderness experience, It's sort of a combination of Camino-like thing with wilderness experience. It has a little bit of a festival vibe to it while still being really hard. And so when you tell someone why don't you go and do, some backcountry trek in some other country, they probably wouldn't say it, but part of it is well, the social aspect that I really like and the town aspect that I get, town after town for a full 6 months, is actually what I'm in love with.
Yeah, cool. So how does it so much hiking blend into your way of life? Did you decide this is your way of life, and you manage your life like that?
Yeah. Trying to think of when it happened. It happened, I think, when I got on the CDT. I just recognized there's so few things in a human life that for me at least, there's so few activities and kinds of things that I really truly fall in love with. And with the trail, it was obvious that it was something that I really loved, and so I put energy into making it so that that could be my life, and sort of letting go of some of the more sort of the bonds of society, living more simply. And that's part of like having the YouTube channel and recognizing that there's a need to educate people with ultralight, and that can feed me with the fact that I can live in relationship to the hiking community and finance my ability to keep hiking.
So how indeed do you like make a living? Like, how old are you today?
I'm 40.
Okay, and
Um,
so
I was a personal trainer in Bali for 8 years. I graduated from college with a master's in Eastern Classics and an undergraduate in Western Classics. So there wasn't much to do by way of job in that way. Um, and then I went to Bali to just relax for a bit because my education was so challenging, and was able to just like fill up as a personal trainer in Bali, and was able to make double to three times as much money as I needed in Bali being a personal trainer. So I was able to like save money that way, and did the same thing between the CDT and the Appalachian Trail.
so you have like a plan on you plan always your next like through hikes or how's it go?
Well, this past I've been pretty much hiking for the last 3 years, like consistently, almost consistently. I took like 2 months off here and 2 months off there, and I lost 15 kilos. Um, and my digestive system feels terrible, and it's been a process of figuring out where like my mobility is hurting. And so this year, I don't have a plan this year. I'm probably going to do the CDT next year, but I just needed a year to like go to the gym, eat well, and also taking 3 years off of life in general, of like engaging with friends and building friendships and just having life, made it so that it felt like my off trail life was really thin. Like I didn't have a lot of connections. A lot of them were sort of fading. And so I just wanted this year to sort of like step in to just build a little bit before
Mm.
like fully living on trail. Because trail, there's people that are on trail full time as well, that you can see year after year, but usually it's a lot of people siphoning through, so it's difficult. You build these like life friendships on trail, but you'll likely never see them on trail again.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to take a year off and get healthy and have a little bit more roots in the off trail.
But you are now in Vietnam, like not in the
Yeah,
States,
yeah.
like building a
Yeah, yeah.
relationship.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, I don't know. I hear you.
nice.
There's not a lot of rationality to it, but I lived in Bali for 8 years growing up as an adult. So trying to live in America as like a normal person with a personal training job that I drive the same road to every day and do the exact same thing. And people have hobbies, and on weekends you see your best friend for 4 hours, and then you plan on Monday that you're going to see them on Saturday, and you see them again for four. It's just it compared to like my life of living in Bali, being a personal trainer, I just couldn't. Um, I never got trained. I never habituated to that like normal adult way of living that that made it so that I could live that way in America. So I'm just coming back to Southeast Asia and living the way that I know how to live.
Nice. So you said you're gonna do next the CDT again. Like, don't you have like a kind of a dream maybe to go like to other through hikes? You have the um, Greater Patagonia Trail in South America. You have in Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, wild places. Uh, People are building like long trails there as well. The Great Himalayan Trail. There are so many.
Yeah, I had the dream of doing the Great Himalayan Trail, and then I listened to some of Cam's podcasts on this lady who like had a lot of mountaineering experience, and she like every day she was almost dying on the Himalayan Trail. And he recently had them on. It's not something that you can do in one go. I still would like to do some of the backcountry Himalayan stuff and see if it's how possible it is. And they're getting better with the route, so
Yeah.
that's definitely something that's a dream of mine. I'll
Are
likely
you?
do the Te Aurora at some point, and I'll get to the Italian Alps. I don't know. That's a argument that the Japanese trail was sort of difficult because it wasn't fully organized or really built, and so there's a lot of frustration, both getting onto like people's private property and um, lots and lots and lots of road walks as a foreigner that doesn't speak any of the English. Doesn't speak any of the language that anyone else does. And so you're getting out of you're getting out of being on trail for 4 days or whatever. You need to find the food, and you're trying to explain to this person, like, I see on my maps the food's that way. Is it that way? And they just look at you scared and drive away. There's not even and you're like, and it's just sort of the Japanese culture.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot. It's not that I won't do more of those things like that, but it's not like a quick, it's not like a quick decision to go and do, just because of it's not dangerous. It's just like the subtle frustrations of day in, day out of that. I don't know. I hiked in Peru. I did Lake 69 and lived in Juarez for like 2 months and did a lot of hikes out there. And I like it. South America, I don't feel as safe as I do in Southeast Asia. And I'm a very absent-minded person. Like, I leave my wallet and my scooter all the time. And so my personality might not be, aligned with, but Patagonia is different. So who knows?
So you do enjoy short hiking, like few days or day hikes, or you so focused on long distance, so you can't take it anymore?
I'm going to try the next time I go back to America, which will probably be in a year. I'm going to try to do a couple 2-week hikes, or 1 month hikes.
Short ones.
There's a longer answer to that. I think that the reason that I hike is because I like the way that over time nature can make its way into my internal space, and that a deep kind of peace can be found because my environment is slowing my insides. Like, I'm becoming more like not just like the energetic quiet and the auditory quiet, like the actual quiet of nature. And that's why I do it. And it's harder to find, especially with the first through hike. Sometimes it takes 3 months before that happens. By the third through hike or whatever, I start feeling it at about a month, but it takes time before the mind sort of slows. And that's what I love.
I'm really curious about it because, I think from my short angle that I experienced that too. 3 weeks was the most I did in Nepal. I didn't get the opportunity. I have big plans for my 60th birthday, but which is coming real soon. But I feel it and I empathize with that. This is what I look for. I think this is what people are looking when they go on trail. And it's amazing to think that after maybe a month or more, you get even deeper into what you just described.
Yeah, and I think and the more that you do it, I think it really took 2 years of pretty consistent hiking for this to happen. But I really feel now that I'm not on trail, it's still with me. Like, it's really deeply still with me. But that took a long time before there's a sitting down and a sitting back in my being, and a recognition of how little I need by way of socializing, by way of activities, of all of these, that life can be simpler, and that my days cannot be full of things and still be excellent if there's more peace. And the importance of routine. That's something that trails taught me, that routine brings a kind of peace. It's not a prison, and being on trail with, every day of having a small goal and walking forward, just it brought a lot of peace. And so bringing that into my normal life, it's still there,
It's so beautiful. Okay, so let's jump a little bit to Ultralight, your
Okay.
main theme. So you have a clear definition of what is Ultralight. Can you
Do
explain?
I?
There was one video that you say, okay, these are the things that make something be ultralight.
Oh, I'm more of in the minimalism camp versus the exotic materials camp.
Yeah.
And geez, that's a hard question that I don't know that I have a decided upon answer to, what ultralight is. And I think that's intentional because people, it can become problematic when one group of people thinks they know what ultralight is, and another thinks, you're not ultralight or you are ultralight or whatever. I want to get rid of that. I want ultralight to be more of a mindset about one's relationship to nature, that you want to have less things in the way of you and nature, less like stuff getting in the way of your relationship. And so it's about optimizing of just bringing what you need, and trying to get your head a little bit out of the weight world into the idea of just less stuff, the recognition that you don't need as much stuff to be safe and be in the woods, because we're animals just like all the other animals, And so that's what I'm trying. I think that's like a core tenet of what I'm trying to communicate in my videos, but also something that I'm struggling with. Like I don't have a solid answer.
How did you get into that from the beginning, like into like this mindset?
Well, I read Ray Jardine when I was like 16. I have his book with me right now, and and that's him. He's an old hippie. He would walk. Well, in the 100-mile wilderness on the Appalachian Trail, which for me I was going southbound as the first time I did it, and Ray Jardine sometimes talks about like cutting your shoes up and walking barefoot, and I walked like 2 days barefoot in the 100-mile wilderness, which burned all of the skin on the bottom of my feet off, and then I couldn't sleep because it was unbelievably painful. So this like thinking as this like young hippie thinking, if why should I have shoes? Well, you should hike with shoes. That doesn't answer your question. But no, it was finding Ray Jardine, and then immediately I started optimizing as like a teenager, backpacking and trying to get more ultralight as a teenager.
Awesome. What I actually meant to understand your definition of ultralight, which you said, but you have like one video, like you said, you have like a clear cut things like the backpack should not be more than 30 liters, 1 pound maximum. It's nice
maybe
because you set it.
Well, I think what I'm doing is like, if you are someone who wants to be ultralight, here are some guidelines when buying equipment.
Oh, right.
And so if you're going to buy a backpack, it should be under a pound. And I think 30 liters is the best volume, especially for someone who's new. And then sleeping pad, no more than 1 pound, but really no more than 8 ounces or half a pound. That kind of thing. But that if you have a 2-pound backpack, it doesn't mean that you're not ultralight. Like if you don't have the money to buy some new, I'm putting out a video like in the next like month about the fact that your backpack actually doesn't matter. So that's not a good example. But if you don't have the money to spend on, that's not the right thing to say either, because you can really be ultralight and get ultralight stuff for very, very cheap. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's like I'm artificially not putting a number to it or giving a definition to it, even though it probably has a definition, like under 8 pounds and being and optimizing your gear,
Yeah, but you have a very, I would say, extraordinary like views, for example, with the sleeping pad. The fact that you don't like the thick ones, that
Right.
you believe
Yes.
gives you the feeling of falling off. And I was like glancing at my tensor pad when I was hearing that. But at the same time, you do recommend the inflatable pads on some kits. Like you have a very special way of like breaking it to different kits based on trail like characteristics or something.
I think what I'm trying to communicate is that there isn't just one way of doing it, like, and I know that people, it's the same thing that happens with like being a personal trainer. Like people want like the perfect diet and the perfect program, and they want to believe if they just follow this perfect diet and perfect program, that's the right one. When in reality, it's like, there's so many different, I definitely contradict myself in a lot of my videos, and I think that's sort of by purpose. And
Yeah.
the reason that I have my podcast is so that people can see all of these different ways of it being right. And they can see someone who has a really like my base weight is like 4 pounds, but I'm not judging the people that are coming on. I'm not saying the podcast isn't us going through their gear and me explaining to them why their gear is wrong. It's getting excited about all these different ways that different people do it, you know? And so like I like the self-inflatable pads the best because of the way that I sleep and the way that I set up my sleep setup. But if you're someone who wants to have a full length pad, then something like the Tensor would really work for you. And you're someone who has a tent or a tarp, which is tall enough so that your head isn't in the fabric. And so there's there's different things that you have to think about and then create your equipment.
So let's go to your personal preferences. Like what is your ideal kit, let's say, like with specific products?
Well, I guess the question is, are you talking about my ideal kit in the sense of like the lightest
What you
best
love?
or well, I have a
What you
couple
love the
different
most?
kits. What I love the most is very
Yeah, what do
different
you
than like the ideal. These are different.
let's go for what you love
my
the most.
romantic. What the things that I love the most?
Yeah.
Is that the one you want to do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the one that what I love the most is probably Johnny Z at Metaphysics just came out with an ultralight pack that he hasn't released yet. So this is unfair thing to say. But his UL pack that's under 10 ounces is spectacular. I just got my hands on it. But if I couldn't have that, I would have likely a Palante Joey in black. The green one I have is ugly. And or their V2. Their V2 is cool too. For the backpack, and then the tent. The tent is the Gatewood Cape for sure. And then
this is a very unique piece, by the way. I learned it completely from your video, researched it. It's a tent that becomes also a rain shelter.
Right. And it doesn't just do that, because there's a lot of other, you can get like for $30 on Amazon in America, at least you can get like a one wind tarp, which is great. They just contacted me. Or you can get Mountain Laurel Designs just made a DCF one. Gear Swiss makes that one, which hopefully my videos haven't made people take them out on trails that can't handle. Anyway, but the Mountain the Gatewood Cape has so many little features of designs that are just so brilliant and so elegant. Like they're not just smart engineering solutions; they're also simple and elegant. Like there's a minimalism about the way that they solve the problems that poncho tarps have. And so there's just so much joy of being like, oh, that's why they did it that way. And oh, that's why they did it that way. And everyone's like, why don't they have a dynamic Cuban fiber Gatewood Cape? Well, it's because the Gatewood Cape is perfect with Silpoly. That's why, like, Dyneema wouldn't work with it. It's this, even though I still want to make a DCF Gatewood Cape. So,
but
yeah.
What about the quilt?
Oh, the quilt's a really hard one. I mean, I think Enlightened equipment is by far the best deal. I also think that their temperature rating is really good. A 20 is quite warm for an Enlightened equipment now. It didn't used to be that way. They have some poor history, but now they're 20 degrees. I get a wide 70 Enlightened equipment, and it's big. It's nice. But I just did a podcast with Timmerman from Timmermade, and they have the lightest, most unique stuff. I haven't used his sleeping bag, but those are really nice, And Nunatak is a custom sleeping bag company, and they make really, really excellent sleeping bags as well. So sleeping bags, there's a lot of great sleeping bag companies out there. It's not like shoes where there's no great shoes.
Yeah, I saw your overview of shoes.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting one as well, as one that Ultra, and also I love Topo because I'm a trail runner initially. But
they're great running shoes.
Yeah, but
they're
you don't
really
like
good when you're running.
Yeah. I like to hike in them. I like the ground feel.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like how the Topo, when you walk, there's a break at the forefoot. There's there's a feeling of it like, and then the Hoka has like a banana feeling, which I actually like. And then the Ultra has this like, it's softer, but then very quickly it wears out and it's going to bruise your forefoot. So there's like, all of them have, I mean, the Topo I would love if it wasn't for that break. That break I find infuriating. And I guess some people don't experience it, so.
I don't feel it. I had so
Okay.
many pairs by now. Cool. Other, pieces of equipment you like highlighting from your personal favorites?
More personal favorite that. Oh, I mean, the Montbell Tachyon 7D wind shirt is spectacular. Everyone, something that I say in my videos a lot is like, you wouldn't think that a wind shirt is even something you need. And then you get onto trail.
Exactly. Like, this is one thing that I wanted to ask you about. Like, why use like a wind protector when you have like a rain gear?
Well, I mean, I have a poncho, which you don't really want to wear a poncho. But even if you have rain gear, having a not breathable material, it's just not as versatile, you know? The 7D breathes a bit, and the majority of active movement that you're going to do when you want some warmth, it's going to be like a wind shirt. Cutting the wind is the perfect amount so that you're not too warm, but you're not cold in that way that you want. And it works for mosquitoes, and it works for sun. It's just, you end up, when you're living out there and you have a wind shirt, it just ends up being the piece of gear that you use the most. And it doesn't totally make sense that, because you wouldn't wear your rain jacket that much, but a wind shirt is, and then runners run in wind shirts, right? And so it's just this like secret perfect thing. And it weighs like, whatever, it weighs like 2.5 ounces or something. So it also doesn't weigh anything.
Okay. Another interesting thing I found in your videos is your approach to food. Food is a heavy thing.
Yeah.
And people who like to eat need to carry some stuff, but you don't like to eat too much.
I am a weird autistic eater for sure. At home and on trail, I am, I try to give advice on food, but like I eat the same thing at home every day, and I eat the same thing on trail every day. And I'm more than happy if it worked a bit better to just eat in nuts. There are some problems with the full nut diet, but man, if I could just eat nuts, just bland nuts every day, and that keeps my body moving, that would be great, So, but unfortunately, I think there's different kinds of fibers, and certain fibers, although they count as calories, strip nutrients, especially micronutrients. So if you do it long term, it can strip some of the micronutrients. And although you're counting it as a calorie, it's actually stripping calories because of the fiber that it has in it. So,
and the protein thing, how do you manage?
Protein's important. The honest answer is I don't manage that. It's not something I've solved yet. And I think that the best way to solve it is to have someone at home that loves you. Maybe you share a house with them. Maybe they're your wife or husband, and they're able to work with you in a way that no friend would, to put in the energy of you getting the food that you need on trail, and to dehydrate or freeze dry or some kind of combination of that so that you can have good food on trail every day. And the other problem is that the second half of trail, which is once you get over the food hunger and you come out of some of the harder sections of that middle section of a trail, you're so hungry that you want to just eat anything, and that's the time that you should be eating healthier food.
Yeah.
And so you come off trail and you just eat, you'll eat anything, and you really should be eating salads and good protein and yogurts. But that's the moment where like you're just freaking out. You're like, I need
Give me a
fat
hamburger
and sugar. Yeah,
Give me a
I want a
hamburger.
hamburger, and then I want like a bunch of ice cream, and then I want candy bars, and that's the time that your body really wants nutrients. But I mean, protein powder does work a lot. The most important thing is that you don't run into missing a macronutrient in a big way. And protein is really the one that you could just completely miss. If that happens, you're going to like bonk. The other way is people that get so focused on protein, and they watch Gear Skeptic, who's amazing, but not for through hiking. fat is the lightest thing that you can carry. But if you're hiking long term, if you're hiking over a couple weeks at a time, fat isn't going to work anymore. You need carbohydrates. And so you think you can be like, I can be the most ultralight food person by packing mostly proteins and fats because those are lighters. When in reality is you like everywhere you can't go into ketosis on trail, you know?
Mhm.
People are going to argue, but like my experience with my
Always.
body is that you feel way better if you fuel with carbohydrates as well.
But you yourself, you're not carrying a stove, right?
No, I just do cold soaking's fine. I don't, it's not something that I, which is crazy. A lot of people absolutely think it's horrible. And I totally get where they're coming from. For me, I don't like cooking at the end of the day. And I don't like cooking in the morning either. So it's just lovely to like be able to just get on trail, put my stuff in my peanut butter jar, and while I'm walking down trail, just eat it, you know? So it's not getting in the way of like, I don't need all of these different rituals in the morning and at night. I just would rather just be on trail.
Yeah, I think it's less of a ritual, but more for me at least, like after a really long day on the trail, like the warm meal is something that is like giving you. It's more like a feeling. It's not like a taste, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had that. I wish I had that in life too.
No,
I wish I
I
could go out to a nice restaurant with friends and like enjoy the food and stuff. I just
no,
can't.
it makes your life simple. You know, I always say that.
Uh,
Why didn't they invent a pill that you just take it and it solves all your
right.
food needs? Why do I need every day to decide what do I want to eat right now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to the like through hikes in the States. How do you compare the AT, CDT, and PCT?
Uh-huh.
Like, what's your favorite? What do you love more? How do you like rate them? I don't know, like the comparison maybe.
Yeah, this is a common question, so I've thought about this a lot. And I also want to say, like from the beginning of the podcast, you should come out and do the PCT. Please do the PCT. Come to America. You're like,
I tell you, I tell you something before you answer. Like the first time I
yeah.
interviewed somebody here on the pod for the PCT, I told him at the age of 60, I'm going to do the PCT as my birthday present. And then over time, I heard about more trails and more. And I think what bothers me about the PCT and in general, the States, it's like, it's too organized. It's too, like, as you said, it's too safe.
Uh-huh. I hear
Uh,
you. I totally hear you, but also you will love it, you know?
stage
It's
now.
it's just one of those things. It's like if you like hiking, you will love it and it will be great. And it'll be a 6 months, you know, with all trails, but also certainly the PCT. Every day you're happy, you know? Even if it's not like the most epic whatever dream that you get 6 months of every day being happy. That's great to have that in
Rare.
life, to have a six
That's,
months of being happy every day. That's wonderful.
that's
Um,
rare.
yeah. So, but so the answer to the question is the best trail by far, for sure, is the Pacific Crest Trail. My favorite trail is the CDT, and I definitely think the Appalachian Trail is the third best trail in the world.
I always like after hearing a lot, I'm focused more on the CDT. So why do you love it so much? It's interesting.
I think it's hard to love the CDT as like it's hard to say that the CDT is the best trail unless you're someone who truly loves hiking, truly loves the process of loves the feeling of your foot going and hitting the ground and just moving, loves the monotony and the boredom of every day packing up your stuff in the same way and making the same food and having the same walk. And even if there's no beautiful views for a couple weeks, you just love the sort of the process of being out there, of being away from everything, and the quiet of really really being away. And the CDT is also significantly more brutal, so getting more comfortable with being extremely uncomfortable but being able to still be connected with like the gratefulness of being able to be out there, because there's going to be a lot, the CDT has lots and lots of weeks that are brutal, and
In which
but you
sense?
get to have, yeah.
In which sense brutal?
Oh, in which sense? Um, I'll say some things that not a lot of people have said about the CDT. I think you should go southbound, so I'm just going to talk about it from the point of view of southbound because I feel strongly about the fact that southbound is a better way of doing it. Montana is full of cow shit everywhere, and that can get really freaking frustrating. There's so much poop. And you put your putting your polycrow down in this field where everything underneath you is poop, and you can see maggots, and you're trying to go to sleep as there's and all you can smell is poop. And you're walking to town, there's poop all over the roads, and the cowboys don't particularly like you because your nails are painted and you've got short shorts, and it's tough. Like there's a lot of just walk right up this thing and walk right back down this thing, and then route finding is hard because you're trying to stay away from private property. So you'll have these 90-degree turns where you're walking all the way down this way, 2-3 miles that way, and then you turn and you can see the trail on your left. You're like, why didn't we just walk through there? And it's because of private property. And so there's and then the basin, which is 170, 117 miles, few days of, it's not desert like the PCT where it's this beautiful southern desert. It's desert like nothing's alive. Well, I'm talking to an Israeli. So the Israelis will have no problem with it.
No, but we have a beautiful desert.
Yeah, you do. I've been to the flower caves, which were spectacular.
Flower cave?
Yeah, they call them the flower caves on Birthright.
The flower, it's closed by now because it's
oh.
It's the danger.
Okay, well, that's too bad. I got to experience it. It was lovely.
Yeah, it is.
Well, this desert is, and I wouldn't call it lovely. The basin is not lovely. It's brutal, and there's not a lot of water, and you really have to hike until 2 or 3 in the morning to stay outside of the sun. You just huddle next to rocks where there's a cup, a little bit of shade, and you're just huddled up next to rocks and hiking from one spring to another, and you're watching a cow poop into the water as you're gathering water from this small little dry pond. It's just there's a brutality of it. But then the sun goes down and you see stars, and you're in the middle of nowhere, and it's just.
I think it was a beautiful description. A little bit discouraging, I must say, but I liked it. Okay, but do you say you don't have low days even on the PCT? Can't you recall some? No,
not for me. No, it's so special, and it's so nice that the problems you have are so tangible. In life, problems aren't tangible, and in life, a lot of the times, the problems you don't have any control over solving, and they still affect you. On trail, the especially once you've done one trail, all the problems are solvable. And if they're not solvable, you're going to die, but likely that's not going to happen. And the reason that you're uncomfortable is really known. It's really obvious. I am uncomfortable because I'm cold. That's why I'm uncomfortable. How do I solve this? Well, I know how to solve this. And if I can't solve it for an hour or two, I'm going to be cold for a little while, and then I'll be warm. So even when it's uncomfortable and you would be in a bad mood, it's actually super gratifying to have this very known thing. And underneath underneath it all, you're still in the woods, and it's still beautiful and quiet and wonderful. And so even when I'm tired and hungry and cold, I'm above tree line and there's snow everywhere, and it's amazing. And I know in a day I'll be in town, or tonight I'll get in my big Enlightened Equipment sleeping bag or whatever, and then I'll be fine,
You have a good attitude to life.
Well, for trail, for sure.
Yeah. I think it affects life eventually. I think it goes out of trail to other things.
Yeah.
So I heard you say something that was really beautiful, that you were speaking about the fact that the highlights on the trail don't matter, which I totally agree. And, people come to me to plan some treks. It's true, it's for a week, and they say, we want to have the most beautiful views, the most the tallest mountains with some snow. And I try to explain them the experience is the fact that you're walking one day after the other. So maybe you can explain your point of view on this no highlights thing.
Yeah, I think it's hard because like it depends on the kind of person you are. There are people that are highlight people. And in reality, the PCT and the AT are better trails for those people. And then once they do those things, they should probably become a mountaineer or a peak bagger because that's all about those are highlight things. So I really do I have compassion for the fact that that's just the type of person, like those type like it's just a different type of person. But I guess it just has to do if you're the kind of person in I pursue peace over like bliss or like high joy experiences. Um, and like the day to day just feeling generally good. And I like to have a life that's that way. And I like trail because of that. And there are people who they're okay with there being a little bit more chaos in their day to day life if they get these like big experiences, you know? And so it just like depends on the kind of person you are. But
I, th- I think it's a lot about the
yeah,
culture, a lot about the culture that became like a FOMO culture. People are always like afraid, like if I go this way, I will miss something amazing that happens in the other direction, which is never the case.
yeah. I mean, I was just having lunch with a friend who had kids, and there's some difficulty of like she had kids when she was younger and didn't have her 20s, and that's just life. You can't pick both ways. You commit to one thing and you say no to other things. That's just and like you got to pick one trail. So like don't not do any trails because you're worried of missing out on a trail. But and yeah, and I guess like you've probably experienced this with the podcast, and I've experienced this with YouTube. Is like you just have to start badly. So do whatever trail is the easiest to do, and then you'll have so much more information to pick the next trail. Just do
Exactly.
whatever is close. And
Exactly.
if and you
There's
also
always,
know if you hate it,
yeah, there's always
you
another
might hate
trail.
it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, well, so you were speaking a little bit about the wilderness, like the wilderness. How do you feel about wilderness? Do you define it? Like, because this is like where I come back to the Nepal experience that you might say
uh,
it's really wild, but
mm,
by law you need to take a guide, which is already like discouraging, and you see all these like porters and groups, organized groups. So this was my bad experience in Nepal. I was like also like 10 days on a mountain range in South Africa where there are no trails, no hikers. This was real wilderness to me.
yeah. Well, Nepal is. I went to Nepal. I like going to Nepal in like November, and there's less people then. Um, but yeah, I think I know that wilderness happens when you're about 100 miles in all directions from anyone. That's about when like there's a feeling you're like it's like something animal in me. I might be making it up and just being like hippie spiritual or whatever, but maybe I'm not. Who knows? And there's a feeling. It happens in Washington on the PCT, and it happens in a lot of the North on the CDT. It's like static quiet. It's like you can't hear a highway, and you can't like hear like I don't know technology in the airways. It's like this. And then when the sun goes down, if you're on the highest point and you look out, there's no lights anywhere in any direction. You don't see anything anywhere. And that sort of that static quiet happens at about like 100 miles in every direction. Nothing. Uh, and so there's even in the States, there's not a lot of places that has that because even if people can get to your trail in like 2 days, it's still really walked on. If it takes 100 miles to get where you're standing, there's not a lot of people that have come that far. You know?
Well, it's really interesting you say that. Israel is a very small country, and you might say like there's no wilderness, but I can walk probably 4 days without seeing any person. Here, people are much more lazy. So if it's like, I don't know, 3 miles away to walk, most of the people will not walk there. So you don't need 100 mile around. I can certainly get to wilderness in Israel. You need to pick your trails. But I understand the overall experience you're describing, and I like totally with it.
Also, I think like
Uh,
the deserts you have are just really special. There's something you're able to feel that in the desert in a different way.
yeah, so
I remember feeling that.
so I understand you've been here, and I don't know if you got a chance also to get introduced to the Israeli National Trail, which is the only not the only, but probably the longest. It's a real through hike that people do here, from north to south or south to north. It's about 1,000 kilometers, maybe a little bit more. I don't think it's as beautiful as the PCT probably, but to give you the cultural experience in a very nice way. If you get a chance when it's more quiet, you're totally welcome. I'll be happy to host you around.
Nice. I will have lots of water questions for you. That's the big question is, where is the water? How do I get the water?
No, it's pretty easy, you know.
but-
In the desert, where it is stashed already. You can just buy it
Okay.
from a website, and you get the location. It's really pretty easy to handle. It's much more convenient to walk the Israeli National Trail these days than like 20 years ago, probably.
I mean, I would love to come out there and walk it.
Yeah.
I likely will. I mean, just hearing it again. What is the best time to walk it?
Winter.
Okay.
Probably from January is the best. Winter is really great.
That's like a perfect time for like career through hikers because there's not a lot of trails that you can hike in the States in the winter. So
Yeah.
having that on the, on the radar.
Great.
So
Now, just, before we finish, maybe do you have not best moments, but special moments that when you think about your hiking come to you, like always, because we tend to speak so much generally about the experience. So I'd like to share some of your unique moments.
It's interesting when you say that, like the thought that comes is actually not a through hiking. I was doing like 2 weeks on the Colorado Trail and it was right after the Knife's Edge, if people are listening to this and know about that. But it was just, on the side of a cliff. The sun's going down, setting up my little Gatewood Cape, and the air gets purple, pink. There's a deer in the distance. It's a little cold, and I just felt alone, but like in a positive way, like deeply, strongly, positively alone. Like I finally just could just like be by myself, but like in a really positive way is the best because there's so much negative connotation about aloneness, but it was just like real aloneness in this like beautiful place. And that's that comes to mind first.
Amazing. Do you always prefer walking alone?
No, I think I would even say I prefer being with like on the long trails we have what we call hiking families because it's just you're able to have so much more fun. You know what I mean? Like there's just so much more fun to have. But I like both, and I think that's why it's able to be more of a career because you're not always going to find your people. In which case now you're alone and you got to like enjoy being on the trail by yourself. And then sometimes you do find your people and you have to realize like what they give you. Because a lot of like families will get in a lot of fights on trail and then break up. And I think it's because people aren't able to see the positives that having people gives you, So like when you're with people, being able to see what it offers you. And then when you're alone, being like okay and able to enjoy like the monotony and the boredom of silence, So I like both. I probably do prefer being with people, but also I like what being alone does to me, So, yeah.
All right. So how do you look at yourself forward years? Do you have clear understanding that this will be your life, or you still thinking about family maybe or things like that, relationships? How does it blend?
I think being on the trail, I don't know, you said you're 60. For me, becoming 40 was like sort of a biggish moment for me where like I stopped trying to become and started accepting what I am instead of like my life is going to be this. Like when you're 30, something, you can be like, my life's going to be this way. And then you like work towards your life being this way. Eventually you have to be like, I'm not a kid anymore. And this is what life is. This is my life. And I have not lived a normal life. My life has been like a lot of different things, a lot of unexpected things. You know, I've lived in different countries and things, and I don't really live a life where I sort of know what's coming. And I think there's quite a bit of suffering coming to terms with that. But then like recognizing that that's just the way it is. There's like, I've really been able to relax in that and see the freedom in what I get from it, you know? I don't really like, people are like, how long are you going to be in Vietnam? And probably a year. I don't know. Will I hike the CDT in a year? I think given the patterns of my past, I'll probably start really wanting to hike a trail in about 4 months, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, and I just sort of like feel into like when I can't not, then I do, you know, like, and like I've been gifted with the opportunity, you know, maybe I don't have some of the other stuff, but I've been gifted with this life that I have freedom. And so there right now there isn't much planned because that's really what I need right now. Like my body's quite tired from all the years of hiking. But I've only been off trail for about 4 months, and I can't imagine that at 9 months I'm going to be okay being still off trail. So we'll see.
Okay, great. One thing I forgot,
Yeah.
and we'll end with that. I should have asked it before, but I love your opinion. DCF versus seal poly. I got a chance just recently to sleep in a DCF tent, and I was surprisingly not liking it, the feeling of the material. And then I heard all your like reactions about it. People are just hooked on DCF, so I want you to bring your message.
Yeah. Man, I have my I hate DCF video. Six Moons Designs also hates DCF. DCF, there's like a long history of DCF. When DCF first came out, it was like this miracle fabric that was supposed to be hyper durable. And we thought, you know, I was in 2004 when like I did my first through hike. Yeah, I don't think it didn't come out until 2008. So it was a little bit after the first through hike. And a lot of these new materials that are really expensive because they're new are really, really strong in one area and have a fatal flaw in another area. And that fatal flaw makes like, you can't be like, okay, there's this fabric that's super light and dries really fast and is really, really strong. I promise you, it's the strongest thing there is for punctures. But by the way, abrasion, it's not good with abrasion. And you're like, but that's like the only thing you experience on like abrasion's a big part of walking, you know, like there's going to be and packing it and unpacking it. That's what abrasion is. So you're saying like this one thing, you're like, that's a big thing, you know? And so if you're someone that's hard on your gear, then you're spending $600 or $700 on a piece of equipment that is also not durable. And I think a lot of people that are beginners, they think if they spend more money, they're going to get just a across the board better piece of gear. And that's not always the case. You often, especially in the ultralight world, you're going to get a piece of gear, whether it's high loft in a down product, which degrades faster, I think, or it's DCF. It is lighter. It does dry faster, but it's not durable. You can just say like straight across the board at this point, you can say like not durable.
And it doesn't pack nice.
And if you're someone who has like a textile feel kind of person, it does not feel good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what, and Sil Poly does feel good, and 7D feels good. Those fabrics actually feel what, like as a human being, you want a fabric that feels like fabric, not like plastic. So,
yeah. Well, Ezra, it was so great to know the person behind videos. I'm happy to bring your voice and your personality here to the audience that listens to the podcast. Thank you for making the time.
Yeah, thank you for asking me, and I'll hit you up when I'm coming out to hike the Israel Trail.
Absolutely, you can get any advice and happy also to walk with you if you're doing that. Great.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Have a great evening.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.